recite the second stanza as our opening prayer. 1, 2. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, those are true, attain to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. Amen. Please welcome someone beside you as you give yourself a seat. As we are serving, please sing very intentionally. You are welcome to the assembly. Nation Board of Nigeria, Madam Mutala Ali, board members of the Quantity Surveyors Nation Board of Nigeria here present, past presidents present of the board, the president of NIQS, QS Olaimi Shonubi, registered members of Quantity Surveyors Nation Board of Nigeria, invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, my name is QS Olaimi Shonubi, and I welcome you to the 2023 Annual Assembly of Registered Quantity Surveyors and inductions of newly registered quantity surveyors with a theme: Back to the Future, refocusing and remodeling the quantity surveying profession for globalization. Please, a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed, and being that this is an assembly, I will confer upon myself the Speaker of this House, and I will be performing my very first exercise today before I proceed. Those who are in favor of me being the Speaker of this Assembly, can you say yea? Those who are not in favor, say nay. The yeas have it. Thank you, sir, for joining us. I must say you maintain your integrity, as your outfit will always place you in that position, just like that. When I grow up, sir, I want to be like you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us here also an invited guest, the Registrar of the Estate Surveyors and Valuers Registration Board of Nigeria, Estate Surveyor Valuer Ifeanyi Uzornwanne, and also a barrister abroad. You are welcome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it is always ideal. Please advise to hold on to your personal belongings safely. If for any reason you find something that does not belong to you, you can please call my attention. Unforeseen circumstances which you do not pray we have. You have to please proceed immediately out through the door behind to the muster point that is outside. The number 1 registered quantity surveyor in Nigeria. I'm talking about the president of the Quantity Surveyors Registration Board of Nigeria, Madam Mutala Ali, to please come up here for his opening remarks. Please, a round of applause for our president. Please clap. My balance, my defense of that clap. Please clap again.
Deputy President NIQS, yes, the Minister of this board, and then my board members, distinguished colleagues. Let me start by apologizing starting the program late. The session was still going on. We had to, in fact, cut it short to get the event started. I'll just think I've been here much early, and I think it would be disrespectful to keep him waiting. But all the same, let me start by welcoming you to this year's event. The annual assembly this year had come a little earlier, and the choice of this location, which to me appears fine, is because we had to forgo the International Conference Center because of the timing. Anytime there's a national election, the conference center is taken 2 weeks or sometimes longer before the election and 2 weeks after. So that's why they do the coalition. Secondly, again, because of the election, we had to move the event a little earlier. Normally we have it towards the end of February or March, but I think it's better for all of us to have our senses together, get over the annual assembly, and then face the national election. Also, it is coming at a very peculiar time. Coming at a time when the country is a bit tight for people that earn salaries, or even those that are operating other aspects of the economy. You find that the situation is really tight, especially with the change of the currency. And please, if you have new notes, don't give it to Shofunde. Because keeping it for you, he will be also use this. So we are in a particular time. Yesterday, one of the board members was supposed to visit me, and he said he couldn't come because the taxi drivers will not take transfers. He doesn't have cash with him. So it's quite tight for people to come to the annual assembly at this kind of time. Secondly, it was, in regard to the inductees, that we placed the annual assembly months after the NIQS AGM or VGM. And the issue is to fast track the registration. Hello? Get our NIQS colleagues to register within a short period after the annual general meeting or the annual general meeting of the NIQS. But we understand and we appreciate how tight it is for, for members, because after spending a lot of effort and resources to qualify as an NIQS member, now to get your license also costs you some money, cost of travel, and so on. So that too we appreciate. Now, I'm giving this to show you that we also understand the situation constables and other professionals are in, and to also appreciate the fact that there's nothing deliberate by the board to discomfort you. So this year's annual assembly, in addition to the induction ceremony, will be on the focusing and remodeling the constable profession. And we call it Back to the Future because in the past 5 outings we had, we have discussed a number of things. We discussed technology. We discussed expanding the frontier of our services. We've expanded, the shape in which professionalism itself is taken globally and even at the local level. So we have taken this to kind of summarize the past 5 years, especially being the fact that for this board, this is going to be our last outing. So we're not going to have papers presented. The only presentation we're going to have is our speaker for the induction. Otherwise, the remaining will be a panel discussion and interaction between members to see how we document a kind of profession we want to have or see that will blend with the future we're facing. After taking your license, after taking your registration, doesn't end there. Because we noticed that for most people, immediately after the registration, they disappear. Yesterday, I was at the Bureau of Public Procurement to re-emphasize the fact that if you are not validly licensed for that ministry, you are not citizen of Paris, you will not be considered as part of the electorate. So, please, you must remain committed to the profession, even after the administration. So, distinguished colleagues, I want to thank you. I want to thank the President of the Nigeria for being with us. And I hope and pray that we'll have a very exciting induction and also a fruitful program for today and tomorrow. And I also want us to listen carefully to the lecturer who's going to talk us about the most valuable profession ethics. Thank you.
Line of activity, which is to bring in also a distinguished registered member of the board, and of course my boss, who has reviewed my certificate 1,000 times, but I'm still here standing because he got before me. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I welcome up here for his remarks the President of the Nigerian Institute of Public Surveyors.
Who is the chairman of the membership committee? I hope you have the last comment for QS. In your next membership committee report, I want to have a proposal on how we can remove his name from our register. Since he has decided to be a speaker, then he can continue to speak from a podium, but not speak qualities of him. On that note, distinguished colleagues, let me acknowledge the president of the board, who also happened to be a past president of our institute, who has done a lot personally in ensuring that we have a stable policy in NIQS and that we have a stable relationship. Like I tell people sometimes, we have peace in the relationship between NIQS and QSRB, unlike what happens in other professions. And it is also due to the fact of the quality of the leadership of the president of the board. Let me recognize also all board members of the Quantity Surveyors Association Board of Nigeria here present. The Honorable Deputy and Incoming President of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, QS, is a queen. The Vice President of the board, I'm not seeing him, maybe he's not here, QS on sitting on our own. Board members of the National Executive Council of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors here present. Past members of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors here present. The invited guests, the distinguished registrar for Quantity Surveyors Association Board of Nigeria, my own dear brother, who, having brought him into the family since November last year, has remained. Well, I will ask him to speak with the DP and apply for membership. I'm sure he wants to be in QS. My dear brother, Soji Apapa, he has a background in life and in all he's been doing, he has always been talking about how Nigeria can improve, how we can have a corrupt-free nation. And I'm also happy, and that's one of the reasons why we are trying to engage. Quantity surveying is a profession of integrity, also high degree of integrity. You are supposed to recommend payments to contractors. You are supposed to advise as to the cost of projects. And this calls for somebody with a high level of honesty and integrity. For the inductees, I want to congratulate you. The president of the board has already explained to you. Yes, we know it might be tasking. But then, like they always say, nothing sweet comes easy. We have gone through all the crucibles, the training to become a qualified member of NIQS. Now you are going to be inducted as a registered officer and have your license. But the license, unfortunately, is not to kill, but it's to make. The license to ensure that whatever project you are involved in is completed to cost and to time, without any shady deals involved. I'm sure when the city guest speaker, when he makes your presentation, you will gain a lot. I mean, I was on the call on Saturday when he made a presentation on ethical dilemma with courts, and it was wonderful. So on that note, while congratulating the inductees for other distinguished colleagues, I want to welcome you to this annual assembly on behalf of the board. Let me also say this. People tend to think that annual assembly for QSRBA to make money. But I believe that we need times like this, when all of us, quantity surveyors, we need to sit down together, look at one another, eyeball to eyeball, and ask ourselves, what is the future for our profession? How can we improve our profession? And the annual assembly is a platform. We have a board that is set up, instigated by the NIQS. The board was set up at the instigation of the NIQS. So, and the whole idea is for the board to protect our profession. Protect our profession, protect our means of livelihood. What do we need to do to make sure that our means of livelihood is protected? What should we do to ensure that the board that is meant to enforce or ensure the protection of our means of livelihood is also protected from collapse? The other day you had when at the sessional assembly where the current chairman or president confessed that he got 1.2 billion last year, out of which they spent about, I think they got 1.5 and they spent about 1.2 billion to organize a conference like this. When the board president is here, I'm sure QSRBA did not receive a tenth of that amount from the federal government. So how do you expect QSRBA to survive? How do you expect the QSRBA to perform its role of monitoring and ensuring the standard of survey practice? So it's important that we all find a way to ensure that QSRBA survives. On that note, I want all of you to ponder, because the next couple of days from today, tomorrow, we are likely to discuss the future of our profession. How do we move on from there? How do we ensure that we continue to survive as people? Thank you, Mr. Minister, for this.
Clear and precise opening remarks. Thank you.
The future of our profession. The future of our profession. Please have your seat. Please. It's I'm delighted to be part of your success story today.
And the incoming president of NIQS and all registered members, invited guests, press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and I hope I can rest the protocol there. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me to give this lecture on ethical conduct, professionalism, and general expectations of professional quantity surveyors. I thank the NIQS in particular for the journey we have been on, and the journey I want to correct the President NIQS. We started the relationship in 2021, and we actually started the webinar series in 2022. So we are very grateful for the collaboration. Thank you. We've been exploring various topics, such as introduction to business and professional ethics. We looked at CAMA 2020, what it means for professional practice. We looked at achieving tax compliance in your professional practice. Then we, together with the ICPC, looked at the National Ethics and Integrity Policy that was introduced in 2020, October 2020, which is now the overarching framework, national framework for ethics in Nigeria. We've looked at ethical dilemmas and the quantity surveyor, and we're still going to look at ethics and corporate governance for the QS, looking a deep dive into the codes, and we'll look at the business case and the tools for ethical compliance. So it has been a journey over at least the last 1 year, together with the NIQS. So I said all of this just in case any of you participated in any of that, and therefore some of what I might say today will sound like something that you have heard before. Forgive me, but there are many people also in the room who have not been part of any of the meetings we've been having, so permit me to go over that ground again. In this lecture, we shall address ourselves to three things. The first thing is ethical conduct, ethical and moral issues in professional practice. And I speak, and I'm going to direct myself particularly to the inductees. Professionalism, we're looking at what makes professional conduct, professional misconduct, and general expectations of conduct of a professional quantity surveyor. So we're going to look at the context in which we're asking you to behave ethically. Does that make any sense to ask anybody to be ethical in today's Nigeria? Why is ethical conduct imperative? What constitutes this ethical conduct? Then what is professional conduct versus professional misconduct? Where does it come from? Then what are these general expectations? And for the general expectations, we will look at anything else that is spelled out in the NIQS code and also the QSRBN code. And then we conclude there. So let's start with the context for ethical behavior. Why should anybody do the right thing? Why? In Nigeria, where nobody is likely to catch you if you don't do the right thing. And if they catch you, you know what they say, it's the one who chop alone that will die alone. So if they catch you, you share. And if you share, you will escape. So why should you bother to be ethical? People bother with ethics when punishment will be certain, swift and certain. But we know in Nigeria, that is not likely to be the case. Number two, people do the right thing if they know, okay, there's no punishment, but there's an advantage to be gained. I will have some rewards from it. Again, if you do the right thing, nobody seems to notice because everybody else is already doing the wrong thing and they don't care and they've moved on. So why would you do it? Some would do it because they have a clique of friends who like to do the right thing and brag about it, so they want to feel among, or feel like, well, we are part of the clean people. Well, some might want to do it for that reason, and very few will also do it because it's for the common good of the majority, or to ensure justice and fairness for all. But our professional bodies are not exempt. The risk of ethical non-compliance is very high, and we all know. Question is, are we set up to be able to curb that ethical non-compliance? The tone at the top of our firms is very weak, because sometimes it is the seniors, the people that we look up to groom us, to teach us, who are actually asking you to bend the rules. They're the ones who are asking you, please, write another so much into that particular line. Those who are new are afraid, what is going to happen to me if I stand up for what I believe to be right professionally? Will I be out of a job? Then who is going to detect the wrongdoing? After all, there was a particular road, I think it was the road that Julius Berger did to the airport, that was pointed out to be horrendously inflated in the budget, and they said it was a mathematical error. And that's where the matter died. Even when wrongdoing is detected, step it and review and tightening of compliance gaps is not common in Nigeria, which is why we do what we like to do. In Nigeria, we complain that the tap is broken, the water is gushing out, and crowds are going there to fetch. So what we do in Nigeria, we station a man with a blala. When they come from the left to fetch, he runs after them with the blala. The people on the right are fetching. And then he chases the people on the right, then the left are back fetching. Really, that's what we've been doing with the issue of ethics in Nigeria. So, what is our general attitude? There are 5 different attitudes that we see. Number 1 attitude is, I'm not concerned about corruption, I live by my own rules. Some other professionals think that corruption isn't really their responsibility. Everyone takes advantage of loopholes for their benefit, so why shouldn't I do the same thing? Sometimes people don't have an alternative to corruption, so if you can't beat them, you join them. And if you don't join them, you are immigrants. Simply, you can go to Canada or somewhere else where they will pay you for doing the right thing. Then corruption is a serious threat to everyone, but many people don't see what they can do. What can I do as an individual about this? Very few are those who say that corruption must be stopped and see themselves as having an individual responsibility to fight it. So how do we see our Nigerian context? How we win and retain business does not receive sufficient regulatory attention to warrant change. However, as globalization continues to take root, and we have, for instance, our own globalization on our doorstep, the African Continental Free Trade Area, the agreement, when people start to take advantage of that, let's not be surprised if it's the foreign quantity surveyor firms who then take the biggest share of the work that is available in Africa and even in Nigeria. It's already happening to the legal profession, where some of the really big ticket items always goes to foreigners, not to Nigerians. We know even in construction, the big projects go to foreigners. It's the scraps that go to the Nigerian firms. We should ask ourselves why. Many of us believe that our clients don't care enough about ethics for it to warrant our own attention. And so we wait for the day that clients start to ask for quantity surveyors of proven integrity before we then rush to go and smarten up our own personal integrity. So when there is a clear advantage and a separation in Nigerian society between those who do the right thing and those who don't do the right thing, then we are willing to make an investment in compliance. We should think about it. especially if we're going towards a globalized world. What a globalized world gives you is that anybody from anywhere in the world can be your competitor. Anybody anywhere in the world, some of them with bigger resources than you have, can be competing against you. So how do you stand out as a professional quantity surveyor? Okay? What constitutes this ethical conduct that where a system of moral principles, rules of conduct actually guides your actions? I don't mean that you have rules of conduct on your notice board, or that it's in a booklet that you are given at induction, or that it is something that you put up in your reception. No. I'm saying the rules, the moral rules that guide your behavior in business as a professional, those are your ethics. So if your conduct is ethical, it means the rules that guide you are moral and ethical. And if your behavior is not ethical, then it means that it doesn't matter what is written in those rules, they have no impact on your professional dealings. So the fundamental principle of professional ethical conduct, the principles are fairness, honesty, and competent dealings. Fairness, honesty, and competent dealings. They are admittedly based on relative morals rather than absolute morals. We know that people who are constrained, like Nigerian professionals are, if they're going to have a chance to achieve the standards they set for themselves, then those standards will have to be attainable, and it will be lower than professionals elsewhere who have greater resources, more equipment, and everything. Which is why professions do not set you the highest standards, they give you the minimum acceptable standards. There is a minimum acceptable standard associated with being called a quantity surveyor. If you fall below the minimum standard required of a doctor, they call you a paramedic, not a doctor. If you fall below the minimum standard required of a lawyer, you are a paralegal, not a lawyer. The same thing goes for the quantity surveying profession, that there is a minimum standard. And if you look in the code, you will see things like accountability, integrity, transparency. All of those things are the minimum standard that the NIQS and the QSRBN expect of you in your daily dealings. These are the minimum standards that are required, and this is what is referred to when they talk about ethical conduct. So let's go to the issue of professional conduct versus professional misconduct. How do you even make an ethical choice? 3 things you need to remember. Number 1, you must always make a choice that is in your self-interest. Because without your self-interest, you will not be motivated. However, your self-interest must not override the interest of others or the public interest. So if it doesn't, but it is in your self-interest, then it is not selfish. But if it overrides the interest of the public and other stakeholders, then it's a selfish interest. That's no longer an ethical decision. So an ethical decision satisfies your self-interest, doesn't destroy the interest of the others, and does not destroy the public interest. If you have those 3 things and you're sure of it, then you can be satisfied you're making an ethical decision. So being and conducting yourself ethically is possible if you decide that that is what you want to do. But so it's not enough for you to be moral as an individual. As an individual, you need to consider yourself as a leader. You also need to cause the right thing to be done within your sphere of influence. And I guess this is where people have dilemmas and have challenges. But we will come to the dilemmas and the challenges shortly. But professional conduct revolves around two things: consistently doing the right things and consistently doing things right. If you are able to be consistent with the choice of things that you do, they're right, and the way you do them are right, by and large, you will have professional, ethical conduct, is what everybody will see emanating from you. But in our context, remember where we started from, where it seems like nobody cares what you do. The people who you look up to are the ones actually asking you sometimes to break the law. So in our context, the quantity surveyor or any professional is bound to face conflicts of interest and ethical dilemmas. Professional conduct or misconduct comes out of how you resolve that conflict or how you resolve that dilemma. And let me tell you why dilemmas are problematic. It's because they force you to choose between two good values. They will force you to choose between truth and loyalty. So, your colleague, you noticed your colleague doing the wrong thing. Your colleague has been living beyond his means or her means. You have now found out that your colleague has been taking bribes. But this is somebody who is very close to you. You know the family situation of that person. If you tell the truth and blow the whistle against this person, they will probably lose their license. And if they lose their license, those children that call you uncle anytime you come visiting, you have to still look them in the eye. So on the one hand, you have a problem. Do I tell the truth or do I remain loyal to my friend? And this is where the ethical dilemma begins for the professional. Do I make money for myself or do I make money for the company? Well, yes, the company has employed me. It is while I was at the job that I came across the opportunity, but it's not the company's opportunity, it's my own opportunity, so I can just do my quick side deal. So is that ethical? It is good for you to progress as an individual, but it's also good for you to contribute to the progress of the company that has hired you. Do you go for short-term profit or long-term profit? Do you go for justice or do you go for mercy? All of these things leave people in dilemmas. So how do you resolve these dilemmas? You need to understand why there is a dilemma. Last Saturday, we had training with members of the NIQS, and we had a scenario that we painted. Forgive me for this contrived scenario, but the scenario is that we're going into elections in February 2023. Clients are becoming very jittery, and they've now asked for all the sites to be shut down. And they would like to reopen after a new government is in place. The contractor is afraid of what he will do for his financial situation. You too, you don't know how you will survive between now and June, when things will become clearer. Then the contractor approaches you that, yes, I know I haven't done up to 50% yet, but you know what? I believe if you give me a certificate, I can get the money out, a certificate reading 70%. What do you do? Do you oblige him and give that certificate of 70%, especially since you know this is a contractor that performs? And he has promised that once the site is back up, within 2 weeks, he will get it to that 70%. So do you give him that valuation he's asking for? Or do you say, I'm risking my license. Oh, and by the way, he's told you that in exchange for doing that, he will cut you small, 20%. Yes, it's how it goes. So do you now negotiate with him and say, I'm risking my license, so in fact it's 25. You pay me 25. Is that what you go for? Or do you say no and you report him? which one will you do? Which is the ethical choice? Then someone brought the twist, that what if you knew that that particular contractor, somebody in his house has a terminal disease, and you know that he needs the money for that purpose, and that that person could potentially die if he doesn't get the money. Do you want to have that on your conscience? That was raised by one of the participants. So you can see now, at that dilemma, you are in between professional conduct and professional misconduct. Depends on how you resolve the dilemma. So if you decide to resolve the dilemma in your self-interest, which would destroy the interest of other stakeholders, like the clients, like the communities, and so on, that there are many stakeholders to the decision you are taking. If you maximize your interest at their expense, guess what? You slide into professional misconduct. But somebody says, but I can't let that happen. Well, is it your money? Why don't you go back to the person whose money it is? One of the cardinal principles is accountability. Accountability has three things. The first thing is appropriate self-disclosure, meaning before your client asks you, at the right agreed periodical intervals, you render returns. You give proper account of what you have been doing. That's self-disclosure. Also, accountability means a tolerance for scrutiny. You know that your client has a right to scrutinize the documents that you submit. It's not, don't you trust me? That doesn't even come up at all. As a professional, you welcome it. So even if an audit has to be done, you welcome the audit. And the third thing is that you know whose decision it is to make at any time. You know your terms of reference, and you don't go beyond your terms of reference. Your terms of reference do not include you acting as a bank and giving out loans to third parties on behalf of the client. So if it is outside your terms of reference, you have to go back to the person who set the tax and let them take the decision that is theirs to take. So if you did that, you will resolve that dilemma, but you resolve it and maintain your professional, ethical stance. But most of us would like the contractor to be beholden to us, and you want to play a role like God. And this is how we enter into professional misconduct. So I'm not the only one who says that there is misconduct that professionals get into. In fact, while doing my research, I found a paper that was written by an academic, a lady, who is actually herself a quantity surveyor. And in that academic paper, she lists 20 top practices that quantity surveyors get involved with. 20 top professional misconduct. Number one, supplanting. And if you look at the code from NIQS or the code from QSRBN, supplanting is a major no-no. And yet, it is the number one practice amongst quantity surveyors in Nigeria. Number two, concealing of professional errors. 3, conflicts of interest. 4, insincerity to clients and others. Illegal award to a contractor. Dishonesty and unfair behavior. Cover pricing. Disclosure of confidential project baseline. We know that keeping confidential information confidential is also another major issue outlined in both of the codes very clearly for all members, and yet it is in the top 10 items of misbehavior: bribery, fraud, unfair tendering, final account or unfair final account treatment of contractors, inflating contract sum, bid rigging, inflating quantities in bill of quantities, collusive tendering, breaches of professional responsibility, overbilling and unfair behavior, negligence, leaking of project budget, overstating qualifications to win bid. When I asked some senior QSs what they thought. Their top 8 were as follows: inflating bills of quantity, approving quantities of work done more than the actual quantities that they know has been done, issuing approval for unsubstantiated fluctuations and claims, agreeing on quotes and awards based on expected benefits, award of contract based on nepotism, approval of quotes without verification, award of contracts based on gratification or subsequent benefits, approval of extension of contract without duly verified or reviewed claims. And here I will refer you to the NIQS code for the key principles that it emphasizes. Number 1, accountability. And I've described what accountability involves. You must tender clear and transparent reports. You must be tolerant of audits and reviews of anything that you put out by independent third parties. And you must understand where your responsibility starts and where it stops. And therefore, who do you need to go to when you are in a dilemma and you've got to take a decision and you feel it is not your place to take that decision. Integrity is the other one. Objectivity is the third one. Openness is the fourth. And the fifth is transparency. However, I noticed that there is a potential conflict of duty in the code. Because the code, as one of the conducts it expects of you is professional courtesy. So out of professional courtesy, you do not encroach on what other professionals are doing unless invited. However, at the same time, it puts an obligation on you to have a requirement to report wrongdoing to the NIQS. So you then start to, now this is now a bit of a dilemma because both things are good. It's important to extend professional courtesy. It's also important to be law-abiding. Now, the code itself sets you up in a dilemma. Sometimes you're going to have to weigh, which one do I do? Do I do the courtesy or do I do the reporting? So, but I'm sure this can be resolved. If you also look at the QSRBN code, it also emphasizes the same key principles. Accountability, top. Integrity, next. Honesty. And I know that if you unpack accountability, you will find transparency. Why? So transparency is actually embedded in accountability. Probity and such words that you find in the NIQS code is also then implied in the QSRBN code. So they're by and large requiring the same minimum standards from anyone who will call themselves a quantity surveyor. But we have also in the QSRBN a charge that we have a statutory duty to be law-abiding in Nigeria, to follow the laws of Nigeria, and also emphasizes the need to act in the public interest. But at the end, the code also emphasizes, and I agree with it, that it is a matter of ethical conduct, keeping up your payments. You have to pay your dues, and you have to remain up to date with your dues. Otherwise, you are a free rider. You are a free rider in the system, and that is unfair and is unethical in relation to all your peers and everything else that the QSRBN is doing. But having said that, I wish the emphasis, the strength with which the payment of dues was mentioned also goes to the rest of the professional conduct, so that we have a way of tracking and making sure that only those who live up to the minimum standards of the profession are given a license. And that even if everybody gets a license initially, that the renewal of license is actually to those who are compliant, After all, who wants a quantity surveyor that is a crook? Ourselves that we are compliant. So yes, we should comply with payment of our dues. We should comply with all of the values that have been mentioned there. But not only should we comply, we should be seen to comply. Because that's the only way that we can prepare ourselves in the light of globalization, in the light of the coalescing of markets in Africa. So even before the global players come, there are big players in other jurisdictions in Africa that can actually swallow up all the jobs that are available. And the borders are going to become more and more light and porous. And professionals will also feel that impact. So we need to change something in preparation as professional QSs. In conclusion, therefore, the expectation of both the NIQS and the QS-RBN is for members to do the right things and to do things right at all times. And the right thing, according to both, is to be accountable, to act with probity, to act with integrity, to be honest, to be objective, open, and transparent. That is the expectation of both bodies. This is imperative if we are to live up to the standards and values that are spelled out in those codes. There is need to provide greater safety for professionals to speak up against wrongdoing. How do we do it safely? Especially since a lot of time it's power distance. The people who are asking us to do some of these wrong things are more powerful than we are. And we can come to very great harm if we try to stand up without support from our professional bodies. We cannot stand up alone to deal with these issues. So the professional body and its regulator need to ensure that processes are in place to provide only firms and individuals who demonstrate compliance with the standards of the profession with a license to operate. Once again, let me express my gratitude to both the QS-RBN and the NIQS for the collaboration so far and for being invited to come and speak here today. Thank you very much.
Please a round of applause for our guest speaker, Mr. Papa, for delivering such a touching and ethical paper. All right. So while it's trying to settle in, we're going to have questions and answers. Thank you so much for joining us. So, can both of you please step up here? Can I have the cordless? So he's
colleagues, my name is Clement Abiai from Port Harcourt. Question goes to what was mentioned with respect to certificates. I have an experience sometime where a contractor is expecting a certificate more than what is actual. But my concern is that the architect involved in that project is also asking me to do the same. And his concern also was that the contractor is a proven contractor that is not going to run away with the money or do anything funny. And to the extent that I was expected to receive receipt of off-site materials. So at such a point in time, I actually declined from doing that, but later on, it appears that the pressure was much. and you need to sort it out that way. But what advice can you give? Perhaps such comes up in the later part of this profession. Thank you.
And I want to thank the guest speaker for his insightful lecture. My question is, what is the ultimate goal of professional ethics? What is the ultimate goal of professional ethics? Is it to exonerate self or to bring justice to the system? And if it is to bring justice to the system, to what extent do we say we are fulfilled ethically? How do you know that? How do you ensure that justice is brought to the system? Then secondly, I want to ask the guest speaker that what are the survival dynamics for somebody you recommend for someone who want to stick to the rule, who want to go by ethics in a time and a season and a country where everything seems to be upside down? Thank you.
All right, please.
That in Nigeria, this is not the first time this is coming up. And it's not new to the profession. So if someone wants an advance payment, is there no process? There is a process. So follow the due process. Simply just get the client, let them apply to the client. Why you? Why should it be you as a person who has to take that decision on money that's not yours? That would be my suggestion. They may not like you at the results. So remember, I told you ethics has a cost. Okay. Mr. Olorunfemi E. says, what's the ultimate goal of professional ethics? Let me give you my definition again of professional ethics. Doing the right things and doing things right consistently. If that is professional ethics, let me define sustainability. Is doing the right things and doing things right is the only way that you're going to get sustainability. Let me describe professionalism. If you are a professional, you will do the right things and you will do things right. What about excellence? If you are excellent, you will do the right things and you will do things right. So what exactly is the issue with professional ethics? So it's, if you want to be professional, if you want to be excellent, if you want to be sustainable, if you want to be ethical, it's the same thing. That's the same core value that underpins all of it. So if you're asking what's the ultimate goal, that is the ultimate goal. Then in terms of survival, thank you. They said if you want to clap, clap. In terms of survival in a place like Nigeria, that's why I went through this whole thing. In the interest of time, I skipped the whole section because I would have told you that in Nigeria today, we have agriculture without food. How do you think we got there? Some people have shelter, but no homes. We have 17 million housing deficit in Nigeria. How do you think we got there? How do you think we got to that situation? We have a building in Ikoyi that collapsed because somebody thought, I have the money, so I can add more floors. And the professionals there were just watching. How do you think we got there? So I don't know what you mean by survival. The people who were in that building in Ikoyi did not survive. So survival is what people say that, well, for my survival, if you can't beat them, you join them. And if you can't join them, you emigrate. So, but we need to repair our country. We need to repair our profession. If we don't do these things, we will actually have no profession for the future. Thank you very much.
Again, the president of QSRBN to make final comments as we get to close this particular session. Please welcome the president of the board.
Of the program. Well, two things. want to thank you, Soji. Actually, why I'm proudly champion of the eyes. So this is also a product of Federal Government College of Udogolu, where I was, the President NIQS was, and Soji was. So, yes, just to share also one experience about ethical issues. When we started practice, early in our practice, one day a client asked us for our estimates. Of course, we obliged him. And then when we went to the tender opening, we found one of the contractors given the exact figure we gave the client to the last couple. So then we were asked, so contractors also their estimate, so we have to change our own figure immediately. Now, sometimes you get that kind of situation. It's not a dilemma you create or you look for, but it's a dilemma that's created by the client. So maybe one of the advice I'll also give is when you are giving, if the client insists that you should do your estimates, give him a figure, just a round figure. Because we gave him exactly what, because we priced the bill and then we gave him the figure. And he gave us exactly, he gave the contractor exact figure, and the man worked backwards. So I think to strengthen that also, I would like to recommend some of us who are readers, who read. There's a book written by Ishiro Hoshimi and Miyaki Koga. The name of the book is The Courage to be Disliked. It's a dialogue between a philosopher and a youth. I think by the time you are through with the book, it gives you a larger picture of ethical conduct. The name of the book is The Courage to be Disliked. So, Mr. Sujiwo, thank you very much. I'm not here to give word of thanks, but I think it's important that we appreciate you and that you are now a member of the family, according to Mr. Speaker. Where is he? So, sincerely thank you.
Super. So we're really going to get into the inductees proper.
Surveyor Ifeanyi Ozowake to give a goodwill message for a minute.
And even my brother, QS Kene Zekwe. Very great respect to members of QS RBM board, they are present, and all executive members of the QS. I am here in two capacities. The first is that I am here to stand in for the chairman of Estate Surveyors and Dollar Registration Board of Nigeria, Estate Surveyor of Registration, MFR, who unavoidably could not be here, but asked me to stand in for him. I'm also here in the capacity of the chairman of the Committee of Registrars in the Built Environment. I want to say that we are very delighted that QRSBN is fulfilling today one of its core mandates as a shrine in your enabling act, and we commend you for that. At least that goes to show our supervising ministry that the board, QRSBN, is up and doing and what the law has imposed on it to do. Please clap for yourself. Even though our own induction ceremony is coming up in a week's time, my chairman still insisted that I should find time to be here because of the nexus, the relationship between this board and SBABO, that is Estate Surveyors and Dollar Registration Board of Nigeria. Among the professions in the built environment, we found out that it is these two regulatory bodies that you have cordial relationship between the regulatory body and its parent association. Please clap for it. And I always tell my colleague registrar, QS Alkali, that he's following well. That
that QSBN is learning well from this State Surveyors Organization. And I also want to tell you that even in terms of relationship, in the little stipends that occasionally we receive from government, I don't know when last it came, it has been by the dogged efforts of the two. Please, clap for your While there at where Esbobon headquarters is at Lagos, and I called him, I said, please follow up. Sometimes even goes extra mile. And that is why you see the buoyancy of these two regulatory bodies. Once again, please clap for the registry. Sir, with great respect, you have not only spoken to quantity surveyors, you have also spoken to estate surveyors abroad. And by extension, the legal profession, because your topic cut across all professions. And I will be glad this, I think I have something to take home. And I will quite appreciate it if this paper is made available so that it can form the center for me to advocate to the boss, to my boss, of even extending a hand to you in a forum like this to come and speak to us. I have simply said that you did excellently well. New inductees, you have passed the crucibles of the regulatory bodies. And by the grace of God, I'm sure you will still know that you are still under test here because you have not been pronounced registered quantity surveyors. And so you are still under test. Am I correct, sir? I know that this practice, I believe, has been given to you. It's being garnished here by this paper today. But I want you also to know that he that has power to give has power to retrieve. And so if you fall short of issues raised in the paper today, your license is will be under question and could be withdrawn from you. I believe I'm speaking right. So license given, license can be withdrawn. If you make yourself and bring the profession to ridicule and disrepute. The law establishing QSRBN have also provided for disciplinary channels, and you pass through it, and if you are found culpable, your name will be expunged from the register. The Quantity Surveyors Registration Board Tribunal has an assessor appointed by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and I'm sure they are working. Please don't make yourself a subject of appearance to that tribunal. Simply sit down, apply your practice according to rules and regulations, and you will see that you will excel. I wish you the best, and I congratulate you. Thank you.
So, a learned colleague, since we are discussing fees together on the professional level, and being the Speaker of this Assembly, I conferred on Mr. Apampa the title of the QS, so meaning also I'm his manager, and I'm going to charge the fees for inviting him to come and speak at your event. So please, to invite Mr. Apampa, let's discuss the fees. To bring back up here for the oath-taking ceremony, our president, the #1 registered quantity surveyor in Nigeria, Malamutara Aliyu, to please lead the proceeding for the oath taking of the inductees. Please, a round of applause. Inductees, get set.
Then the profession, and then for a bin. So we'll now take the oath of allegiance for the registration. So when I say I, you call your name, and then we go ahead with everything. We start now. I do solemnly swear or affirm that on registration as a conservator, I'll be upholding the integrity and the dignity of the conserving profession at all times. And in all places in the course of practicing the profession. I will not do anything or act in any way that will bring or is tantamount to bringing the conserving profession into disrepute. That I will abide by all rules and regulations set by the board in controlling the practice of the profession in all its aspects and ramifications. That I will fulfill all financial and other obligations sanctioned by the board for the continual placement of my name on the register of the registered conservators. That I will submit and comply with the board's periodic requirements for feedbacks on my practice as a conservator, mandatory continuing professional development, contribution to National Cost Depository, and other matters aimed at promoting the growth and development of the profession in all its applications. That I declare to act professionally with precision and impartiality. That I declare to do everything possible to improve professional competence. That I declare to accept only those assignments that I'm capable of performing. That I declare to inform QSRBN of any relationship that can be considered or interpreted as a conflict of interest. And that will affect judgment. That I declare not to disclose confidential information related to the profession or the assignment except with official permission. That I declare not to commit any behavior that could affect the reputation of the QSRBN or its accreditation or certification process. This is my declaration that I adhere to this code and of conduct, and if complaints are made about my conduct, I authorize further investigations accordingly. Congratulations.
QS Ali Abubakar Bashir, please a round of applause for the professional registered quantity surveyor QS Ali Abubakar Bashir. Registered quantity surveyor Nasir Mohammed Saidi. Are you here? Please walk down. Quickly, can QS Dina Adam also join in? Please come forward quickly. QS Imam Bukali, RQS. QS Anene Eri, Elizabeth. Babalola. QS Adelusi. Okay.
See, balance yourself.
A book presentation by one of our own, QS Musa Jetu Salau. Can we please put our hands together for him as he makes good to the podium? I've been directed by the President to tell all inductees to please come in.
The President of NIQS. The board member here present, the council member, fellows, and members. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Musa Sadao. I'm here before you to present a textbook, a measurement textbook titled Measurement of Essential Work Quantities, and it is authored by me. Mr. President, before I move on, let me just tell members a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Musa Sadao. I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Ahmadu Bello University. I also have Master degree in Professional Management from the same university. Since graduation, I have been practicing as a quantity surveyor with the quantity surveying consulting firm in Kaduna, named Lukan. Alongside with my practice, I taught briefly as part-time lecturer at Nubamari Polytechnic, Zaria in Kaduna State, and I have at various times served as external examiner for some higher institution of learning offering quantity surveying courses. I was among the team of resource persons at the Institute December 4 training workshop in 2016, period with the adoption of the current standard. I'm a current member of the International Board of the Institute, and I'm a fellow. Thank you very much. Mr. President, I'll be one to interact with the board. I prefer to stay on the ground, so we will interact properly with the board. Thank you.
So, 2007 to MMR 2. In 2015, NIQS of practice, they learned their own standard, their own version of the standard called the 4, and it was done along the same issue NMR 2. In 2015, when it was being launched, it was programmed that the effective date of the new standard will be for May 2007. And as planned, as soon as it was launched, there were training trainers and there were training donor workshops across the nation. In 2021, when it is believed that member has been trained, member has learned, member has acclimatized themselves or themselves, National Policy Committee of NIQS put a deadline for the adoption of Section 4. Where we are today. The question we are asking ourselves, where are we? Are we using these standards? Have we been trained? Do we understand it? Is it being applicable after 8 years? Of course, we have our answer to this question. And this is my own observations. There seems to be good gap. From what we have observed, people are not using December 4. December 4 is still very new to all of us. But if you not know the reason, Mr. President, I have conducted a private survey for me to get to these conclusions. In the middle of 2022, I conducted a survey with the BOP for different sites across the country. With neighbors, some get hard copies, some get a snapshot of BOPs. Mr. President, what I brought, the high resemblance of the 4 was just 3. That's 3 over 29. 3 over 29 is just barely 10% of the total, which I consider very poor. Mr. President, I want to say one thing. In the research cycle, 29 is too small to represent over 5,000 researchers who are in Nigeria. But what I'm saying is that that's an indication. It's telling us that's a pointer. It shows that we're not using this before. We can take around Abuja here, collect tips from site. You know what it is. And if that continues, Mr. President, those are the implications. We begin to have ability work instructions, and that will lack some transparency. We begin to have inconsistently voted costing. We will not be able to compare our projects. We begin to have difficulty interpreting documents, and that will lead to overruns or even disputes. What it means is that we'll be drifting towards payment because payment has no standard, has no base. That is why today payment has no place in the construction industry. We only have place where engineers are or where we have to start. And we should not allow our own BOP to go into such situation. And we need to encourage ourselves to be able to use this standard. Then, if I have improving cost performance obviously possible by defining cost quantification scheme. That is what NITS did in 2015 to launch our own version. Surveyors in 2017 said prerequisite to a successful call consultation will be a consistent improvement in installation of data format. Data format is the way you present your data, which is DSM-4. More attention to technology development and standard will result in more effective and productive construction. Those are just coming from few international community and everybody is talking about standards. And we should move there to ourselves here in Nigeria and start doing things the way we like. Once we raise a professional course, we should be able to at all times present things the way it should be presented to encourage transparency. The case again is saying we're talking about future. Let's look at the future when you look at measurement standard. In the very few, in the next future, when you say future, we are talking about future, we're trying to localize future. Because all of those things are already happening outside this world. They are practicing this from other places. But here, we're still talking about future. One, in the very near future, we'll be having the issue of consistency in presenting convention text. That is what ICMS goes. That's what they are driving. And it's solely standard can allow you to do that. It's only when you have standard, you'll be able to standardize, you'll be able to have consistency across the industry. The second, the whole automation in Nigeria, how forecast or software used for taking off, that's domestic. What we're talking about is a platform, a structure where every information about the project is being put and you document on this platform. So far, NRM2 has been adopted, QMI has been adopted, but in Nigeria, I don't know whether we're still talking about PIM. Then the next one is that very soon, there's an increase in demand for more detailed quantification. We have a trend that it's not just asking you to do the convention course. We're going to have a trend that will asking you, I want a shopping complex in the Canada. What is the cost? Worldwide. Volume 3 is the other NIA engineering solution. But this volume is just on construction work. The book is 17 chapters. Chapter 1 is on scope of measurement of construction work. Of course, measurement has something to do with all work of human life. But here, chapter 1 is talking about measurement as it concerns construction works. Here, we try to look at what are the measurements of construction work, what are the measurements at pre-contract, what are the measurements on post-contract. Chapter 1 has dealt on all that. Chapter 2 is on principles of construction work. Like I said before, the book is based on Department 4. So chapter 2 basically discusses Department 4. Then chapter 3 is concept of taking off. Chapter 3 gives on implement of taking up. What are the dimensions? What are the rules regarding taking up? Mr. President, this is the chapters of the book summarized here. There are other features of the book. Like I said before, it's founded on a revised edition of the SML4 published by NIQS. 2, the book is the chapters are structured in 2 learning perspectives. The particular chapter, for instance, number 1, it has an exhaustive note on construction method. For instance, the chapter that is for artwork. The first thing is to look at artwork. What kind of work that comes artwork? Talk of excavation, vacuum, disposal, artwork support, level and compacting. It will discuss it on technical time. Then the second perspective is the taking of skills. That's what the way the book related all through. Then on all the description has a solution side by side. What that means is that every description there is a note that describes why description is placed that way. For instance, if you describe an item and you are deducting point, you describe another item, you are not deducting point. The side note that will tell you what you are using is deducted and it is not deducted. You have those side notes all through the work. The next one is measurement code are shown against all work descriptions. Of course, we know measurement code. Measurement code are those numbers against items, a measurement rule of the assignment 4. So we use this code to identify the roles that have been taken. Of course, if we are talking of construction cost quantification, these are the codes that we usually use. Mr. President, I also want to recommend the book. The book is very useful for learning students studying from today. It's also a very good corrective source for our members, junior members preparing for professional exams. I want to be able to present this. And I want to thank all the members that have assisted me one way or the other. Thank you very much.
It's not easy to write a book. I know that out software by QS Dr. Olushola Okunshino.
And I heard that song. And doctors called the 2 sons and asked them, who is the best teacher? The older son said, experience, of course. And then doctors asked further, okay, whose experience? And the older son said, my experience, of course, I will learn from my experience. I will learn from my mistakes. And the doctor said, okay, thank you, my elderly son. But let me listen to your younger brother. And then the younger brother of Mr. Toto said, oh, well, I don't think my experience is the best teacher. The experience of others appears to be the best. Learning from them is better because I may not live to relate my own experience. The younger son is smarter, don't you think so? I don't believe my experience, your experience and mine is the best teacher. I don't believe that. I believe God, the Almighty God, is the best teacher. But one thing is clear, we can learn from our own experiences and the experience of others. This presentation will focus on 3 lessons we've learned in the process of building a construction cost management application package. 3 lessons. I will also apply that lesson to the wider QS profession and see how you can benefit from it in your own practice as well as in the practice of going surveying as a community. It was 3 years ago that we were given the opportunity to present our first commercial product on this platform. That was 3 years ago. We want to thank the president, KSRBM president, and members of that board who has given us that opportunity. So we are very grateful. We are grateful to you and the board. As Ignatius said, if he has stood beyond others, if he has sinned beyond others, he said he stood on the shoulders of giants. There are some giants who will not give you their shoulder to stand on. Thank you, sir, for giving us your shoulder to stand on. Thank you and your God for this. We appreciate it sincerely. Now, place under the trade, concrete work, just go to trade bin, generate trade bin. That feature is there. And then you print out, the moment you are done, just print out your bill. No adjustment of cells and columns, rows, as you do in Excel. There's no need for that. Because your bill is print ready. And in this assembly, our latest feature is the fact that you can now, generate your bill in Excel. It was the Vice President who said in one of our presentations that, look, you should be able to export to Excel, but because there are some clients who want the Excel format. Now, when you are done, you can export to Excel and do your arrangement and send to the client. That's the latest release we have. Now, if you're interested in how all of this works, a demonstration, please, we have a stand outside. Visit our stand, we'll demonstrate to you how it works. So that's the feature. There are other features that the time limits will not allow us to talk about. But for details, visit our stand and see for yourself the details of these features. Now, what have we learned? Okay, that's the standard level of description, like I said. On-screen measurement capability. You can generate either PDF, Excel, trade market. As it is today, our clients are queen surveyors because it's for preparing bill. But with an estimating module, contractors, queen surveyors, engineers, architects who do building are clients. The bigger the market, the more the chances of success. That's the lesson we've learned. How does that apply to the QS profession in general? It appears when queen surveying started in this country, at that time there were opportunities, there were a lot of consulting work to do. The existing queen surveyors had too much work to do that we were satisfied with building. No conscious effort was made to go into engineering infrastructure. And this year, the bulk of money earmarked for infrastructure goes not into building, but other engineering infrastructure works. So the challenge is still there. We need a strategy that will allow the queen-surveying community of practice to penetrate into the cost management of engineering infrastructure. If we can do that, all of us will succeed together. That's the lesson for the QS community of practice. We've also learned that who is superior to what. My first partner happened to be, it was introduced to me by my supervisor when I was doing a PhD at the Federal University of Technology, Akure. We started working together, but along the line we had issues. It was clear the young man wanted to use my head. And I told him, let's strike a win-win deal, but it was not working. And I said, look, the way I live is this. If I can't go for win-win, I go for no deal. I don't play win-lose, I don't play lose-win. It's either win-win or no deal. We parted ways. I got another partner, and because we buy into the same principles that govern SIM effectiveness, we'll be working together without any issue for years. My partner is not a queen surveyor. He's a software engineer. And that is a lesson for the community of queen surveyor. We can make appreciable progress if our practices are mono-professional. That's just the truth. We can make appreciable progress if our practices are mono-professional. If in your office you all have queen surveyors, that's all. There is little to what you can do. Let me say this. If you read Building Quantities Explained by Vasily, the first queen surveying firm in existence is Copper and Son, according to Vasily, in 1785 in readings. That's the first queen surveying firm, according to the record. Rather, International works across the globe, a multidisciplinary practice of queen surveyors, economists, engineers, architects, multidisciplinary. Who is superior to what? So start thinking, how can I build a multidisciplinary practice? Because that is the future. Construction procurement, infrastructure procurement is a teamwork. That's just the truth. It's a teamwork. And there's something I've noticed. I was talking to Professor Doko Ibrahim the other day, and he made a point. He said the guys who are doing a lot of things in the industry are guys who graduated 3-4 years ago, working for architects and real estate developers. So this is the point. The young guys are competitors with independent work surveying consultants. I have a personal experience. Before I went for PhD, I was working for a contractor. Now, when I returned, and I said, okay, I finished my PhD, so let's continue work. He said, I can't pay you. I said, okay, what's happening? He said, you are a doctor. How can I be giving doctor 20,000, 30,000? Any of your best graduates, give me his number. That's the person I want to work with. We talked to and fro, the guy was serious. And I gave him the number of one of my recent graduates who is good, and he started working with him. That was the end of the relationship. So the point is this: an architect will lead a multidisciplinary firm and recruit a young guy to do all the QS work. So Queen Surveyors must begin to lead multidisciplinary practice. Who is far important than what? That's the second lesson. Maybe when you come for our presentation at our stand, we'll be able to share that lesson with you. Once again, we want to thank your board, Malam Murtala Aliyu, for giving us this opportunity over this year to showcase what we'll be doing. We really appreciate it. Thank you for giving us your shoulder. Thank you all for listening.
The essence of such arrangements to be made known to us. At this point, I would like to invite the President of the Board to come and speak to us on this few presentations. Mr. President, sir.
Can we have those at the entrance, please? You know, normally the convention is if you write a book, somebody comes to review it and does that for you. But this is a family meeting, and it's not about the marketing of the book. But I think the fact that we have within the family people that are making efforts to document our knowledge. You find that textbooks, especially now, as scarce. Some of you who travel abroad will have to go to bookshops to search for current content books, and we have brains here that can do that. I hope Professor Colombo is writing our own, and a number of people that should write books that we will. At the top, we will have people that will write and really enrich knowledge. So when we had a discussion with Malam Musa Salah, I thought we use the opportunity of this our union to appreciate the effort. But in addition to that, I said you present your own book yourself, so that you give us the content, the background, to the reasoning behind the book, so that we can all appreciate it. And that will also encourage some of us to also write some of their experiences on that.
QS Temitope Elizabeth Momo, QS Ekon Samuel Basi, QS Michael Chijioke, and QS Dahiru Agu Aminu. Please, if you hear your name or you heard your name, can you please come to the podium?
Quantity surveyors, distinguished fellows of the Institute, other very senior members of the profession, good afternoon. A slight modification. Team, QS Henry Deika is unable to join us, and QS Dahiru is also unable to join us for some very impromptu emergencies. It's well. With me, two gentlemen and one lady. We've been given the title to work with technological advancements, opportunities and challenges for the professional quantity surveyor. Permit me to state a few things before we get into the the job. We modified the main theme of the session to refocusing and remodeling the quantity surveying profession for localization and not globalization. The essential reason why we do so is that we want to be relevant, we want to be global players, but then we also take very special interest in local issues. So we want to be locally competitive, but then meeting all global standards, so that we don't do what everybody else is doing. In addition to that, we also do the things that are very, very peculiar to us, so that we take into cognizance local content, local initiatives, local peculiarities and uniqueness. And that's why the QS Cloud initiative is a highly welcome concept. We will ensure that it meets all global standards, but then very, very locally and reflective of our uniqueness. The second dimension to our modification is to our title. In addition to dealing with opportunities and challenges, we talk slightly about requirements for adoption of these technological advancements. That's the unique dimension that the title did not reflect. But then let's bear in mind that my discoveries will be talking about, in addition to issues to do with opportunities, we will also delve into issues to do with requirements for adoption of these technological advancements. In the order of sitting our arrangement, QS Makeshi, Chijoke, we talk about the concept of technological advancements. We talk about benefits of technological advancements. We will also begin to mention about potential areas of applications in quantity surveying. QS Dr. Samuel Ekong will speak next, and he will be talking to us about the requirements for adoption. And this will range from issues to do with infrastructure, issues to do with competencies and skills, issues to do, of course, need for us to reflect our curriculum, so policy issues, and the whole raft of issues that are peculiar to us, quantity surveyors in Nigeria. In fact, we will also be looking beyond quantity surveyors, we'll be looking at quantity surveying, because beyond us as quantity surveyors is the profession of quantity surveying itself. QS Temitope Momo will finally speak about the challenges to adoption of some of these technological advancements. She will also profile some mitigating initiative strategies that we can follow to address some of those challenges, briefly speaking, in very broad terms. Technological advancements, technology itself, but this time doing them better, not doing them worse than we were doing them. A catalyst to bring out effectiveness, efficiency, accuracy, and also improve on our capabilities. And so technology also operates at various levels, at the level of the society, at the global scale, at individual levels, and at the level of the profession. And so our thoughts will largely be focused on the profession of quantity surveying and the persons of quantity surveyors. Technology has positive effects. Of course, there are the downside of technology. Nothing, as we are aware of Newton's law, for every good thing that can't be the other side without the downside. But then, indeed, technologies are usually planned to have positive effects on the society. For fashion, it's largely to improve our efficiency, effectiveness, accuracy, client satisfaction, all those good things that we want to achieve. I want to bring in QS Michael Chijoke to take us through the concept of technological advancement and specific applications within quantity surveying, construction and quantity surveying, and their benefits. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon all. There is no better time to talk about this advancement in technology than today, that we are bringing in new breed of quantity surveyors. And it's also important for them to know that the construction industry, like we used to know, is changing. The face of construction all over the world is also changing. And the rate at which it's changing has tripled or more than doubled, more than quadrupled since after the COVID-19. Because today, the construction industry is opening up and embracing more of technology and information, digital informations. And with that, they are making advancements. Some of the traditional ways of methodologies of producing products of constructions have changed. And it's only good that as the quantity surveyors will still remain relevant in this industry. Our importance in the industry, our space, our role, our assignments in the industry, the services that we render, if we don't evolve with this trend of time, there is a very big question mark to that. So today we have new crop of quantity surveyors. What will be their future? Where will they find themselves in the trend of these events? I know there are so many concerns. It is not only quantity surveyors that are concerned about this disruption that this recent embrace of technology is bringing to the construction industry. There is a lot of questions. Who and who will still remain in the service, and who will be overtaken by technology? We know the trend, the onset of the concept of BIM put a question mark on the services of so many professionals. Some are saying the quantity surveyors will be the most hit. Others are also saying that design and the other aspect of construction will also be more affected. But as it stands, whether we remain relevant or not will depend on the extent to which we embrace ourselves to these technologies and the extent to which we evolve alongside with these trends of technologies. Today in the industry, there are so many trends. Today in the industry, there are so many disruptive technologies that are reshaping the construction industry. A good number of them have been around, they only evolved over time. It is not like they are entirely new together. But a good number of them also are actually new in their own right. Whichever way, they are leveraging so much on information technology to progress, and we cannot ignore that. It is also important that as quantity surveyors, we get to learn some of these technologies and try to find areas that we can leverage on them to be able to deliver on our services. Because the professionals of this modern era, we call them the digital professionals. The professionals of this modern era have to evolve and align themselves with some of these trends. One of such trends is similar to what we have been told not too long ago. The Q Cloud. Software is changing and revolutionizing the way we used to do things. And with this, we are becoming more efficient and more better. I don't want to mention particularly the BIM. BIM software is for one obvious reason, either by design or purpose, whatever, has not covered the interest of quantity surveying. Because I've collaborated on a project that was supposed to be based on BIM. And for somehow, instead of BIM making the work more easier for me, it became more cumbersome. Because other professionals will collaborate and do it finish, they will be able to meet up with things, reflect changes and rest of them. But for the quantity surveyor, they still give you the final output, which is not in any way connected in that link of BIM. So that it is not new to us anymore. And because construction is a repetitive activity, most of those things that we do, we are repeating it every time. But sometimes, because we don't document some of the achievements that we make, we also have the same problem of repeating it next time. But with AI, the machine is now able to understand what you have done and is able to replicate it such that you do it far more better than you used to do it before. So, the technology may not be prevalent now in our construction industry in Nigeria, but it is something that we should also look forward to learning or understanding more about them. The quantity surveyors also have to look at utilizing to do some of our work better is drones. Drone technology has come to stay. No matter what they say about it, it has come to stay. Even though it made its first inroad as a weapon of war. But today, it's seen more applications in our industries. In my organization, presently, we use drones for some of our progress reporting. And you don't necessarily, if you're working on a large project like maybe the Dangote project, and you're one of the quantity surveyors that are working there who is responsible for reporting progresses, you don't necessarily have to walk all around the corners of the project. It can be very tiring. But with drone and with coordinates, the drone, you can sit on one place, the drone will fly through the whole coordinates, pick all the information, vital information that you need. A good number of us came from Kaduna today, I'm sure. But one thing we did not know about that journey was that while we are on the rail coming through, a drone was also tracking our movement along the line. That is some of the benefit that drone is bringing to our side.
I think one very important point that Michael made is the value of data. All these technologies, not some, all of them depend on data, availability of data. And the quality of the data is what determines the quality of the outcome, what the technology can do for you. It's often said in current literature that data actually is going to be the goal of the next century. I'm aware of many firms that are already beginning to prepare themselves. Data will be extremely expensive years to come. I'm sure many of us easily use Google Maps to locate places. I'm sure we wonder who perhaps provide those data in Google Maps. But we're using them freely. And these are things we actually can use them in construction. We can apply them in construction. But the point is that the way some of us depend, we're not usually scared these days. You're going to a new city and you've been given an address, just go, Google Map, and off you go. There are a few times it leads us to wrong locations. It's the quality of data it has that led you to the wrong location. And so if we continue to have good data, if some of us take the time, we actually can influence correcting those data. So that next time somebody travels to that location, you will not be lost. You won't go to the wrong location. So it's important that we take the issue of data very, very seriously. And now, this data come usually, it's actually knowledge. Some of them are actually tacit knowledge, the one that are already documented in our contract documents, but then there are some that are actually explicit, the ones that are in the heads and minds of the people who went through those projects. We have to begin to imbibe those knowledge management technologies to debrief, to extract these knowledges and document them. So that when a new young person comes into an office, complex problem, no problem is new actually under the sun. Somebody has gone through a similar one in the past, and there are solutions. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The context and time may be different, but there are things you can pick from those old experiences that will be applicable. Well, Ekong to take us through the requirements for adoption of some of these technological advancements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Yes, the last presenter, my colleague here, reported a case where he could not progress with the pre-implementation of BIM. Probably something was missing in the project cycle. BIM comes at different levels. Probably what he needed to function as a QS, which is the level 5, was not implemented. Even in the UK, who has started this out since 2016, I'm not sure they are in level 5. It is basically at level 5 that the QS will be able to leverage the basic functionalities of BIM and all that. In this session, we want to look at the essential requirements, what we need to put in place, the drivers needed to enable us advance technologically. We'll look at 3 basic issues. I will call the first one organizational change, the second one upskilling, then the third one continuous professional development. Now, The organizational change, let's start from the outside, the markets. Technology is an investment. You don't just uptake an investment because you want to do it. Fine. If it leverages your efficiency, it's enough compensation. But of course, we should be driven as rational beings by economic factor, and that essentially entails the market must prepare us. The clientele should be able to demand for their services. If the client wants this based on the efficiency, what really happened with the case with BIM in advanced country? It took the government intervention to say, look, we are tired of paying for variation, getting these issues, a whole lot of problems, poor productivity and all that. To enable us improve upon project performances, I think BIM is a way to go. That was how the journey started. And that takes me to the next issue, policy. You see, some of these technologies are broad-based. The clients, as we know, the major ones are the government, maybe the corporate bodies. It will take these people to actually drive these innovations in terms of implementation. If the government say, okay, today, going forward, all public projects not below a specified amount must be on BIM. BIM is a reference point because it has come to be. Other technologies are still evolving and all that, so we might be making reference to BIM, so bear with me. Now, if the government takes that policy, of course, a blueprint will be put in place. It is a technology, it is a program. You don't just get crashed into implementing. Fine, we need to prepare. Even when the market is not there, we don't need to wait, let's conclude on this. We don't need to wait for the market to come. We need to prepare. That is the essence of upskilling. So government role now, if the government decides, let's go on this, there will be a blueprint. There will be a time span set out for implementation. There will be room for training. There will be room for engagement. The different sectors, the different categories of people involved in the project delivery cycle, how do we get them involved? Issues like BIM Hub or a technology hub will be set up where people could go, get up-trained. Then when everybody, the stakeholders are now ready at the specified time, so let's start test running this within a period, then there should be this issue of case exemplar projects where these things are implemented and people could draw lessons from it. It follows a process. So government intervention is important at one end. Now, the organization change within the organization and individual level. The first thing is developing capabilities. Two levels of capability might be very, very important. The first one is dynamic, which is strategic. You have to look at the future while expecting the benefit, while expecting the market to come. You have to plan strategically. Strategic capability enables you essentially to be able to search, evaluate, and exploit the new opportunities that comes with these technologies. Now, you don't just wait. Now, if you're able to search, what does each of these entails? How does it function? What problems does it solve? Now, you evaluate the options. Are they commercially viable? Then, through exploitation, you look at the commercial viability. Is the market there? Who will pay for it? And how do we get it implemented? That is at the strategic level. You give yourself the time span to plan. Look, I'm going on this. It will take this organization this. It's not a standalone thing because we need to plan for the stakeholders coming and other people who will be contributing to aid the implementation process. That is on one side. Then on the other level is project capability. The project capability is essentially what the individual's organization will have to do locally to
the level of the industry. That clients must make demand. It drives adoption of many of this, but clients must also be willing to pay the investments that those that will provide this, will adopt these technologies, the investment they make. Clients must be willing to pay for them. Benefits are enormous because you don't use them on one project. They come in a manner that you can reuse many of the information that you've been received on this project. You can use them on subsequent projects or during the operation phase of the project. And so clients must be willing to pay.
The second level is level of organizations. Organizations must also be open to change. We must recognize that there is value addition. Of course, we want to stick to the things we are used to doing, our comfort zone, but we must be amenable to change. Positive things are there, but it's usually very difficult to let go. There's always a resistance to change, but the organizations must be willing to change. The third is at the level of the persons, at the personal level, skills. And this will need to come at two different levels. Those still in school, the curriculum must change just to mitigate them.
My name is Stephen Sokomo. My assignment this afternoon is just to identify the challenges that we are facing and we will be faced with what we have had, QS Samuel and QS Mike told us. When QS Mike was talking, I know most of you were like, he should not stop because it sounds so nice using all this IT in our profession and getting the best results. When it came up, giving us the requirements, I know that we enjoyed it as well. However, there are lots of challenges that we are facing in acquiring all these things we have discussed. So that is my own simple assignment this afternoon, just to highlight it and to see how the strategies, how we can go about it. So I'd like to start with this. There is popular saying that you cannot be doing the same thing and expect different results. So that's why I want to appreciate the president and the board member for organizing a meeting like this so that we will navigate from our old system to the new system in order to checkmate, in order to meet up with the trend that is what is going on globally. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for the privilege given me. So that is the assignment before me, challenges and strategies to improving technology advancement among QS. My name is Timothy President. Okay, that's the beautiful lady there. A competitive advantage lies in the IT, like you have had it, and like I've said in my introduction. Before now, so many African countries, we are not embracing it. And with what we saw and what is happening, we discovered that we are actually lagging behind. And you see, everybody is quickly running into it, especially Nigeria. So we are going in fast. However, in the recent time, there has been also in the development of the IT utilization and development of the industry. But this has a lot of challenges, like I said. People are going into it, we too, we are embracing it, but there are lots of challenges. Let's quickly look at it together and we will see likely solution we can afford. Yeah. When QS Samuel was talking, he made mention of a lot of softwares that I know that most of you here, you are hearing it for the first time. We are witness in this house. Yeah, there are a lot of software, a lot of hardwares too. He made mention of that. Many people are like, even with that some have never had before. And you now discover that in order for us to meet up with the standard we are looking at here, there's a lot of education have to go into it. That is, we have to train and retrain. So one major challenge we are faced with is inadequate training and education on the use of IT. You see, there are a lot of knowledge gap. Yes, there are so many developments, there are so many software that we are still faced with. Don't forget, I'm discussing challenges, is the high cost of hardware and software. I think you mentioned it and you emphasized very well on that the cost of initial capital that is so high and with organizational change. So there should be a training program geared towards educating QS professionals on how IT innovations and seamless integration can assist others, like we are doing now. So this is one major challenge we face with. These things I'm highlighting may look so small, but we have discovered that there are major challenges that is a big barrier for the advancement of QS in using IT. There's security and privacy of data not guarantee. Yes, we always see this one as another big challenge. I think we mentioned something like that. So the fear of our information being hacked, the fear of our information being virus or any other thing, you see, people feel we should stick to the old method of doing it, the analog way of doing it, that will be in good control of my information, and it will not be porous, something somebody else will know. This one can be yes. This one can be corrected by private letter and by having a better way of securing our information. And Dr. Sam was talking about blockchain. Dr. Mike was talking about blockchain. So this can still be corrected as well. Also, poor infrastructure and erratic power supply. This may sound so simple or common, but it's a major challenge to the use of IT. It's a big challenge to the use of IT. I know most of our offices, if we want to deliver maximally, our power supply should be 24/7. And you know the cost of running gen and the store and running generator and even the power supply from the government.
The President of the Surveyors of the National Board of Nigeria for his comments before we go into the question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Next, coffee. Yes, that type of coffee. And chocolate, no chocolate. Also, Mike was my teacher. He put me through BIM, first experience. And he was a hard teacher. For 3 days he was with me. I'm not sure I got it right. It was like the story of the last Sultan of Sokoto, Abubakar, the father of the current Sultan. During the colonial, before independence, he was supposed to learn the English language. So they go to the resident's house every evening, and the Wazir of Sokoto was one of the teachers. Now every time they go there was a barbecue. Some ram would be put on fire, they would relish it and then learn a few words and so on. So one day he said, I think we need to stop this because we need to save the rams in Sokoto because English was not progressing and the rams were finishing. So when Michael was pushing me through the BIM program, for 3 days I said, look, I think we continue with this stuff. I think I will draw a line. Well, that's not the issue. He made a point, and I think this was really emphasizing the issue of a project in South Africa, the financier in China, the designers in Europe, the conservator here. Now, what does it pose to the challenge of regulation? Because if we're going to regulate the industry, how do you do it? And these are some of the things that we need to interrogate as professionals here. Somebody elsewhere will do your work and there's nothing you can do about it. So while we're thinking of encouraging the technology, we need to think of a way to protect the space so that we don't all get jobless. And the way to do that is, well, first of all, to upgrade the technology, like saying, but also importantly for this that will be in charge of regulation or the policies to keep reviewing these issues because these are really challenges. The issue of the artificial intelligence. Now they have what they call the IT people, what they call the virtual robots, isn't it? It's not even just the robot, a virtual robot, like ChatGPT. I had the lawyer telling us during the council meeting, if you read chat.openai to show you, you can write actually a poem to your girlfriend. Just say, I have a girlfriend. She's having her birthday in 2 days. Please write a poem for her. I can construct a beautiful poem for you. Now that's the question of technology into our lives. So when So, that was talking about now telling a robot, I have this structure, please take off for me or produce the bill for me, and we're going to get there. So the important aspect of it is not going to be the technical capacity. We have to appreciate the technical capacity, you have to be part of it, but the ability to do the other things that are technical, the non-skill aspects, like the judgment, like the advice, and so on. So to keep grounding ourselves in technology and keep doing that. And that's why I appreciated those people that wrote books, people that produce softwares. And I want to challenge all of us. Like, I don't know if some of us have read Tony Henry's Die Empty. It's a book, Die Empty, written by Tony Henry. When he was asked where the biggest treasure was, he says not Wall Street or gold mines in Congo. It's a graveyard. Because a lot of people have gone with so much in their head, so much experience, so much knowledge without putting it down. So please let me call on us, in addition to really caring into technology and going all through that, we should be able to put something down and leave behind for those coming highness.
Listening to us, I hope we were not too boring. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, the moderator of today's technical session and the panelists. Documents somewhere, session table for Thank you very much.